but it is operational. We recently passed the strategically notable number of 69,420 active users. And we're, I think, on our way to having a few 100,000 users, possibly over 500,000 users within 12 months.
Hey, I'm Stephen and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, we have heard some fascinating new details from Elon Musk overnight regarding Starlink. Elon revealed some potential numbers in terms of total users, monthly costs, and a few other key details which give me enough information to make some predictions and projections about Starlink's future revenue and valuation as a company. And as per the title of this video, the results are absolutely fucking absurd. In the world of YouTube, there's a lot of creators out there throwing around stupid numbers just to get clicks, and unfortunately I find myself in the situation today where I've done the numbers and I look like one of those same idiots. But the problem is, these numbers are based on actual calculations and actual predictions from things Elon actually said in his actual talk. I don't know how else to say it. Starlink is the world's next 100x company and is going to be worth trillions of dollars. So with that said, let's get into the video. And by the way, since I know there's a lot of crypto lovers watching and people who like free stuff, it's your lucky day. For a limited time, you can get up to $250 in free crypto bonuses when funding a new account on BlockFi, where you can use cryptocurrency to earn interest, borrow cash, and buy or sell crypto. If you want your free crypto, use the link in the description. It also helps out the channel. And if you'd like up to 2 free stocks, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account, you'll get 1 free stock valued up to $250 just for opening an account. And if you fund your account with $100, you'll get a second free stock valued up to $1,600. Unless you don't like free stocks, that is. And if you're in Australia, the UK, or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake, also using the link in the description. Let's get back to it.
There's a need for connectivity in places that don't have it right now, or where it is connectivity is very limited or very expensive. But at many parts of the world, like I said, it's simply not available. So you can think of Starlink as filling in the gaps between 5G and fiber, and really getting to the parts of the world that are the hardest to reach, the most difficult to reach, 3%, possibly 5%. And I think it really quite nicely complements fiber and 5G.
Now, remember that number, 3 to 5%. We're going to revisit this in a moment.
Starting in August, we should have global connectivity for everywhere except the poles. Now, as I said, it's really meant for sparsely populated regions. So because our spot size, talking in terms of cellular, is quite big. So we're well suited to low to medium density areas, but not to high density areas. In the high density areas, we will be able to serve a limited number of customers. But it is operational. We recently passed the strategically notable number of 69,420 active users. And we're, I think, on our way to having a few 100,000 users, possibly over 500,000 users within 12 months.
The meme lord strikes again, but this is actually really valuable information. We know that the Starlink monthly user cost is $100 per user. If they're around that 69,420 users, that's already close to $75 million of annualized revenue. And in addition to that, if they get to 500,000 units, that's going to be around 2/3 of $1 billion of revenue within the next 12 months. And this is just the beginning.
We also have an advantage of a launch system that is capable of a very high launch rate and capable of putting a lot of mass to orbit. I believe last year SpaceX delivered about 2/3 of all payload to orbit, and this year we may deliver closer to 80% of all payload to orbit of Earth. Mm-hmm. Just to put that in position, so, and of the remaining. Of course, it remains to be seen for this year if we actually put close to 80% of all payload to orbit. But Of the remaining, let's say roughly 20%, about 12% would be China or thereabouts, and then 8% is everyone else. So the sheer mass to orbit capability of the Falcon 9 rocket is, because it is a reusable booster and the fairing is reusable, so we only have to make the upper stage, that has never existed before, and the cost of mass to orbit also is the lowest it has ever been. So because of reusability. So this is the two work together quite well.
Understatement of the fucking century from Elon low-key Musk there, explaining how Starlink and reusable rockets work together very nicely. No shit, Sherlock. As I've talked about in my previous Starlink videos, this is a really important thing. I've talked about Tesla, the fact that they have no competition, everything that's supposedly competition is a joke, they're not making money, blah, 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 blah. But SpaceX and Starlink are on a whole other level. We heard some ridiculous numbers there. SpaceX on track to do about 80% of the world's mass to orbit next year. This is insane. And the reason is because of the reusable rockets. But there's more to this than meets the eye. Should anyone wish to compete with the Starlink internet satellite constellation, they have a slight problem. Launch costs. Nobody can compete with Starlink on cost because nobody else has developed reusable rockets. Now, there is a caveat there. Should somebody else wish to compete with Starlink, they could always contract SpaceX to launch all of their satellites, but this is kind of defeating the purpose. If SpaceX is taking on all that revenue and enjoying some margin along the way, they still can't compete on cost. The point is, if you thought Tesla was dominating the world in terms of electric vehicles and their lead, SpaceX and Starlink are on a whole other level. Until other companies have developed their own rapidly reusable rockets, there cannot even be any competition. I've never seen a situation like this in business. The closest analogy I can think of, probably Google's search data, right? No one's ever catching Google on search. No one has the data. It's just not going to happen. This is on a whole other level. It's absurd. It is absolutely absurd. And speaking of absurd, in just a moment we're going to do the numbers, and I warn you guys and girls, make sure you're sitting down for this, and also make sure you have a medic on hand because your head may in fact explode. Don't say I didn't warn you.
I'm pretty excited about the future. It's looking, we're getting overconfident, but it's looking quite positive. And like I said, just it serves as a great natural complement to major telco, fiber, and 5G.
Talk us through, if you can, Elon, the finances of this huge project. How much are you investing in Starlink? How much are you prepared to invest in Starlink?
Well, I think it depends on how you count investment. It's sort of what's the total. One way to count investment is like what's the total amount of money invested before Starlink becomes positive cash flow. And then how much of that do you include Falcon 9 and everything we've done there? I think probably before we go to, fully positive cash flow, it'll be at least $5 billion, and maybe as much as 10. So it's quite a lot. Mm-hmm. And then if you say like, well, how much are we going to invest even after it goes positive cash flow? I think we'll have to keep investing a great deal after that point in order to not be made irrelevant by continued improvements in cellular and continued extensions in cellular, or lower cost geosynchronous satellites, which. Geosynchronous satellites can serve a very large swath of territory, but the total bandwidth they can serve is not that great, and the latency is high. But still, we need to be able to offer our service at a comparable or ideally lower rate than GTO satellite connectivity. So it's basically total investment probably is like at least $5, maybe $10 billion, and then over time it's going to be some multiple of that. I don't know, it could be 20 or 30 billion over time. There's a lot, basically.
To give you guys some context, very roughly, that's approximately about as much capital as Tesla has raised in their entire lifetime to date. However, when we do the numbers and look at the actual returns on that capital, like I said, your brain is likely to explode.
So right now, we're basically, it's like $500 to order a dish, and it's about the same. It's the same price everywhere in the world. The only thing that changes from one country to the next is our taxes and import duties. So it's the same price everywhere in the world. We're taking into account sort of exchange rates and import duties and transport and stuff like that. So, and then it's $100 a month. I mean, to be totally frank, we are losing money on that terminal right now. That terminal costs us more than $1,000. So we obviously are subsidizing the cost of the terminal. Now we are working on sort of next generation terminals that provide the same level of capability, roughly the same level of capability, but costs a lot less. So that's one area of development for us. Because obviously selling terminals for half price is not super compelling at scale. Under millions of that, that's tricky. And over time, we would like to reduce the terminal cost from $500 to, I don't know, $300 or $250 or something like that.
It's finally time to do the numbers. Please make sure you're sitting down for this. As we heard from Elon there, over time, the Starlink terminal costs, they're likely to get down to $300, $250 per terminal, but it seems that the Starlink monthly user cost of $100 per user per month likely to stay stable. So with that in mind, remember I told you guys to keep in mind that 3 to 5% number earlier in the video? Elon was talking about potentially serving the 3 to 5% of the world's population that don't have internet or don't have great internet access today. Very simple numbers. Let's whip out the calculator and please, again, make sure you're sitting down. Okay, so let's do the numbers. And of course, this is just back of the envelope calculations. Just trying to illustrate a point here. So please don't get your panties in a twist. If you want to use some different numbers here and there, that's totally fine. I'm just trying to make a point of how ridiculous this opportunity really is. First of all, Earth's population today, close to 8 billion. So we're starting with 8 billion. Elon Musk there talked about serving 3 to 5% of the world's population that's underserved or not served at all with broadband internet. Let's use 5%, keep the numbers nice and simple. We're now looking at 400 million potential users for Starlink internet service, each paying $100 per month, equating to around $500 billion of annual revenue. Highly consistent, highly predictable, high margin revenue. What the actual fuck? Do you guys understand the significance of this number? You know what? Let's have a look at something. I wonder how much revenue per year the world's most valuable company today is doing. Apple. Keeping in mind, a little bit of software, some high margin there, but also a hardware provider as well. So it's not apples for apples. I see what I did there? That was so bad. But it's a starting point. In 2020, Apple did about $250 billion in revenue, approximately half what Starlink could potentially be doing per year. And I remind you, today Apple is the world's most valuable company. Okay, so back to our calculator here. This number just like, what even is this? It's like half a... Okay, all right, cool. So I'm going to keep my composure. Right, okay, so what kind of valuation, what kind of market capitalization could Starlink be looking at, assuming the company's bringing in a truly ridiculous, like comical, $500 billion per year of revenue? Typically, telecommunications and internet provider companies today are somewhere around that 15, maybe 20% multiple. We're going to use a generous 20% on this one. And we end up with a market capitalization of approximately $10 trillion. Starlink could be worth $10 trillion. What the actual fuck? Seriously, what even is this? This is like 4 times bigger than the world's largest company today. Now look, maybe in the bear case you want to say, Stephen, what if they only get 2.5% of the underserved people rather than 5%? A real bear case. Okay, fine. Cut it in half. You're still looking at about a $5 trillion company. More than double the world's largest company today. Do you guys understand the implications here? This number is so absurd. So insane, so ridiculous. I'm questioning my ability to use a calculator. Like, I feel like I've made a mistake. Like, I don't even trust my own calculations here. What even is this? Seriously, what even is this?
Wondering if you see any potential for partnerships with mobile operators. Is this something you can work together on?
Yeah, in fact, so we have two quite significant partnerships that with major country telcos that I'd like to be able to announce now, but we obviously defer to our partners to make any announcement. And we are in discussions with a number of other telcos also to provide Starlink access. And this is, like I said, this is helpful for backhaul. It's also helpful because a number of countries have requirements that in order to receive a 5G license, that you have to provide rural coverage. And in a lot of cases, the rural coverage it's very difficult to make the economic case for rural coverage. So effectively, the urban customers end up subsidizing the rural customers, sometimes to a very, very significant degree. And so in some cases, just like, well, can you just take care of the kind of the rural customers that are required by our 5G license? And then we're like, sure, we'll do that. And it's the most, like I said, it's usually the most difficult to serve 3 to 5% of the customer base. Yep. So those are the two sort of deals that we're doing are where a 5G licensee has rural serving requirements set by the government, and in some cases where they do have 5G cell towers, but the difficulty is achieving backhaul.
Things are clearly humming along very nicely for Starlink at the moment. These commercial agreements soon to be announced with national telcos could be a huge boon for Starlink, really legitimize the company. Now, I just want to talk about the potential opportunity here for investors in the Starlink IPO. Elon Musk has talked in the past about spinning out Starlink as its own stock for people to buy into rather than IPO SpaceX itself, just IPO Starlink. This makes a hell of a lot of sense. It's going to have much more predictable and near-term revenue, whereas SpaceX is a really long multi-decade opportunity before investors would see returns there. That being said, Elon Musk has also said more than once that he's going to do his best to give priority of the Starlink IPO to Tesla shareholders. Here we have a tweet from Tesla in the Gong. Shout out to Wollongong in Australia. Any thoughts on Starlink IPO? We would love to invest in the future. Any thoughts on first dibs for Tesla retail investors? And Elon responded, at least a few years before Starlink revenue is reasonably predictable. Going public sooner than that would be very painful. Will do my best to give long-term, keywords there, long-term Tesla shareholders preference. So those hoping to buy a little bit of Tesla stock just before the Starlink IPO to get first dibs, not going to happen. Elon Musk there saying that he's going to do his best to give long-term supporters of Tesla, long-term Tesla shareholders, preference in the Starlink IPO to get their hands on Starlink stock. This would be a great way to reward people who've been supporting Elon's other endeavors for a long period of time. Shout out to all the OG Tesla stock investors. Let me know in the comments below if you guys and girls would be interested in the Starlink IPO and getting your hands on some Starlink stock. I certainly would if the price is right. Speaking of the price being right, SpaceX's valuation today, unbelievably, on the private markets is less than $100 billion. This is absurd. I mean, we don't even need to talk about that. This is insane. But in my opinion, if Starlink were to IPO tomorrow, and I shit you not, I actually believe this is the case, it would be valued at least $100 billion. But to keep the numbers simple, let's just say $100 billion for a company that basically has no users and a tiny bit of revenue, but has Elon Musk leading the company, a huge first mover advantage, no one else has the reusable rockets, huge potential future revenues, blah, 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 blah. I think the market factor now, if Elon Musk IPOs another company in the future, investors will pile in. Pretty much any company Elon Musk in the future IPOs, automatic $100 billion valuation, because why not? It's Elon. I really think the market would react this way. I know it sounds absurd, especially to some of the more traditional investors out there who really care about EPS and this, that, and the other, but look, honestly, I think that's the way that the world is today. So anyway, should Starlink IPO in the future at a $100 billion valuation and ultimately grow into a $10 trillion market cap? That is literally a 100x return on an IPO of a company whose valuation at the time would be relatively obscene and already one of the world's largest companies. This is why I believe Starlink is the next 100x company. So, who's pumped for the Starlink IPO? Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I need to go and sit down and reassemble my brain. I think something literally broke while recording this video. I don't even trust my numbers anymore. It sounds ridiculous. I don't know what else to say. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. And don't forget, if you'd like up to $250 in free crypto bonuses with BlockFi, use the link in the description. You can also get 2 free stocks with WeBull and a free stock with Stake, also linked in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. I read all your comments. P.S. If you're still watching, you're awesome. If you'd like early access, exclusive videos, regular Q&As, our private Discord server and more, consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/solvingthemoneyproblem so I can keep creating content for you guys. There's a link in the description. You can now also become a member of the channel for some exclusive perks. To learn more, click the join button next to subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch store. Either way, the best form of support is you being here and watching, so thanks again.